Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. I'm Cole.
I'm Callie.
And I'm Mom.
How are you ladies doing this morning?
Good. It's a beautiful morning.
I'm great. How about you?
Doing all right.
Are you guys excited and buckled in, prepared for a bit of a wild ride today?
I think this one's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I agree.
I go back from, I'm waving on this one, wavering, I guess you should say, on this one, because the lines are not real clear.
Yeah, those hazy, fuzzy situations are sometimes some of our most interesting conversations. So I'm certainly curious where this will go.
Yeah.
So to let those of you listening in, today we're digging into how media has become a battlefield, weaponized for influence, power, and oftentimes punishment. From celebrity courtroom dramas to political show trials and cancel culture pile-ons, we're unpacking how storytelling can turn destructive. Why are some people held to account while others are getting a redemption arc? Is justice even the point anymore? We're talking Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, Harvard's political firestorm blow up with Trump, and kind of how he turns on everyone from Zelensky to Beyonce if he's not getting his way. And then the very bizarre DOJ shaming tactics that have come out now. No thanks to Ed Martin, which only have me a little bit extra nervous.
Yeah, me too. The last thing that I want to hear is the DOJ say we're going to use shame. We can't find anything to charge you with or do anything to you, but we're just going to shame you.
Yeah. I mean, you asked a really interesting question, Mom, a second ago, right before we started recording. And I would love to kind of hear what your response to your own question is now. What is cancel culture to you?
Oh, again, one of those lovely little definitions that everybody uses, but I'm not sure everybody knows what it is. I mean, the way y'all describe it to me is that it's using our culture and social media to attack or shame someone, regardless of what they've done. It could be any random thing, could be from 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So you probably are more succinct about that.
Yeah, I think that is part of it, but I think that is more what cancel culture does and less of what cancel culture is.
Oh, that's a good point.
Which is kind of a weird kind of razor to try and navigate. So I would say that really it is society in general based on usually one kind of instance in time to say this person is no longer deserving of anybody's support. And if you support them, you're a bad person. If you forgive them, you're a bad person. If you let them try and explain themselves, you're a bad person. They're no longer allowed to have support, period, because we said so.
So this is the red letter A that you had to wear in the 1800s if you'd been, or women really had been caught in adultery. But now then we have social media to just make it big and massive and fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you can't interact with any products that sponsor them. And anybody who tells you that, okay, they've tried to apologize for this, or they have apologized for this, or, maybe they did something when they were a kid that was really terrible and now they're a better person. None of that is taken into account. You did this one thing one time, and now you're just not allowed to be part of society anymore. You just have to fend for yourself now.
So let me ask you this. Do you think cancel culture involves death threats too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it can be really brutal.
Yeah.
There are a few people who have come out talking about their journeys navigating being canceled and what that looks like and what that means. Chrissy Teigen comes to mind. And I don't even remember what she did that the internet decided to turn on her at one point in time. But she came out a while later and she was like, this was the most traumatic time of my life. This was absolutely miserable. I had people threatening my children and coming to their schools because of something that I said 10 years ago on Twitter. And like,
and
before
that's the
these
thing I
children
don't
were even alive.
understand. I don't understand how it can be so massive. Like, how can you even think that addressing this with her children is right, makes sense? Where
Because we're sick. There's this massive, and I notice this in myself all of the time. There's a massive hero complex that is rampant in our society, but we are not capable of addressing that and being reasonable in our responses to things that we see online. So you say, this person did something bad, so now I have to do everything in my power to end their existence, socially speaking, and then we cannot regulate our emotions, and it evolves and it festers and it grows and it gets worse and worse. And then you have people showing up at someone else's children's schools because they think that that's how they're going to come across as a hero.
But still, I'm just going to say, every one of us have done things that we are embarrassed about or ashamed about. But that doesn't give an entire country who doesn't know me this carte blanche to crucify me.
The internet has made that possible.
Well, okay, the internet has made that possible, but there's a person behind that internet who somewhere in their mind thinks, I'm going to threaten you. I hope you die, or I'm going to threaten your children. That's a mental illness that's going on, that instead of thinking through this, I mean, it's not even just giving that person the benefit of the doubt. It's that whatever they have done is so egregious that they don't even deserve to live anymore. And some of these things just don't amount to that.
Well, there's so much, I'm not sure the word that I'm looking for here, but it's like you're talking about. It is absolutely a sickness, because you said something that me or I or my tribe doesn't agree with. And so because you said that one thing 10 years ago on Twitter, I now am justified to take unforgivable actions against you because you said those things so long ago, or yesterday, or it doesn't matter. Where there's like, it's okay for me to do unforgivable things to you because you said something on the internet that I think is unforgivable. There's no regulation of emotion. Not exactly where I was trying to go there, but I mean, it's like someone did something bad, so now there are no rules because they did one bad thing. I don't have to be accountable anymore. I can do whatever I want to that
the judge
person.
and the jury to prosecute, and we don't even wait to see if there's any extenuating circumstances.
Well,
we don't
actually care about facts.
No,
we don't actually care about truth. It is, this is what your one thing spurred in me, and so that's just what we're going with now.
And here's the problem. I mean, we were talking about this earlier with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. Even after looking at the history of that and some of the comments about that, I can't tell you who's wrong or right in that one. I mean, he's won some cases, she's won some cases. They've both had defamation cases. They've both won judgments. But I still, and granted, I wasn't sitting on the jury of any of these things. I wasn't, involved in the trial. But in hindsight, when you can't even look back in hindsight and go, here's the truth. It's almost like there is no truth anymore. It's all whatever I say. Who says it the loudest? Who has the biggest mob to produce this?
The truth makes sense.
Yeah.
And making sense is against the rules now.
Yeah. I go back to the illusory truth effect. Whatever I see and whatever I decide and however I feel becomes my truth based on absolutely nothing else.
Which is insane.
How did we get there, though? How did we get there that
I think that
Pacing
lots of
trophies.
people,
I think that it starts with the anonymity of the internet. I can be whoever I want and I can be as loud as I want on the internet because I'm anonymous, and so there are no repercussions anymore. And you're just like, but wait, that's also not really true. You can't just use the internet to go and be a hooligan and expect there to not be consequences. But I think that a couple of things are true. Number one, I think that American society, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I think that we've gotten too big for our britches. I think that we are too big, that we are completely incapable of policing and controlling ourselves. And then you add in the anonymity of the internet, and everybody can be a keyboard warrior behind their screen where it's safe. And so you lose any sense of
decency.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
But
being
again,
right or being correct has become secondary, and winning is primary.
Yes.
And we have made it so that the rules say everybody has to win. And if you're not winning this time, then we have to change the rules so that you're also winning. I think it's this kind of amalgamation of a lot of things going on right now. Anonymity on the internet is a huge part of it. It's a huge factor that is kind of driving this, but it's not about being right. It's about winning. And then you have to change the rules so that everybody wins. Well, when you can shape the narrative, because you can cherry pick all of these little things to support your argument, to say, well, I'm right. Even if I'm wrong, I'm right. And it's
Well, and the next kind of step of that is, even if I'm wrong, you're not right. And so I think that there's more to it than just, even if I'm wrong, I'm right. It is that, again, that ripple effect of all of this to say, hey, I can be and do and say whatever it is that I want to say because that's how I feel. And feelings are totally valid and totally acceptable every time, all of the time. And we have outweighed emotions and feelings when it comes to feelings versus reality, feelings versus fact.
yeah, we've become an ends justify the means society.
Yes. And I mean, how often have you seen a headline, whether you know what the story is about or what the truth of it is? How often have you seen a headline that is not at all what
inflammatory.
the story is about, is more
All the time.
inflammatory just to get you to click on it?
Clickbait.
Absolutely. And then you're like, well, I did not realize that. Then you click in and then you might get some reality in there. You might get some truth in there,
You might.
but it could also be the complete opposite of what the headline states. And so because we've monetized media so much, because we've monetized everything and literally people's eyeballs and people's time, media itself has become a weapon and again, a tool to push whatever narrative you want. And that's really scary to me.
It's scary to me, but it's even more scary when I keep thinking there's no individual accountability here. There's no, I mean, and I'm going to say, y'all get on to me sometimes for things that I say because I'm saying them to y'all. And one of my things has become, I would never say that in public. I just wouldn't. I might say something to you because I know you and I know that you know who I am and how I mean that, even if it's not said correctly. But I'm not going to put that out on the internet for that to become fact.
I go back to the whole thing about us being toxic feminists based on having preferences on how the dishwasher is loaded. I just, again, you're saying those things in the confines, in the safety of a full relationship, not 140 characters. And so we can put together all of the rest of the foundation of who you are and what you stand for and what you believe and what you mean. And there are certainly times for all of us that we'll come back to the other one and go, you might want to rethink how you said that. I'm not really sure that that's what you meant. And that we've had to go, shoot, no, that is not at all what I meant. That's not what I meant. And then when you have the reach of the internet, there is no beyond your 140 characters. There is no getting to know somebody beyond the 90-second reel that you just watched on TikTok. And actively going through and seeking out, is that really what she meant? Is that what Callie stands for and Callie believes? That becomes work. And we're a lazy society. We're not willing to put in the work. We're not willing to do all of that and say, okay, hold on. Johnny Depp said this, Amber Heard said this. What is actually true? What is real? Where is the truth in all of this? We're not willing to do any of that work.
Put a small point of contention there, because on certain levels, I do agree with you that our society is lazy, but I also think that our society works their butts off in general. I think that we're spending so much time focused on doing what we have to get the necessities that spending any additional amount of time to search for the truth is more than most people have time for.
I think that that's because we've devalued the truth.
I think that's part of it, for sure.
Well, and I was thinking we used to have, there used to be the Walter Cronkites of the world that if Cronkite said it,
That
you
meant
had
something.
yes, it meant something and it was valid.
There was
But
some
today,
credibility.
yes, but today, who do you go to that?
I can't read anything without taking it with a huge grain of salt. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
where it comes from.
there's no one that you can just honestly go to and say, "Oh, I trust this source," and they've proven over and over and over again that they have integrity and decency and they're only going to report. When it comes down to, again, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard, the stories are so varied and there's so much crap that goes along with it that and first off, I'm not sure it's any of our business in the first place.
Agreed. But we're nosy.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been
God,
a
we are
media
nosy.
circus. Yeah, that's the one that the judge said, yes, you can bring the cameras into the courtroom. What the hell for? I mean, what do you gain by doing that in a court of law? I mean, we did that with O.J. Simpson, and that's probably, the big one.
We do it all the time now. There's a whole court TV television station where it's just publicized trials. Although I don't think court TV is around anymore, but I think
There are
it's true
lots of,
TV now.
yeah, things like that. But I mean, we're even doing it in the Oval Office now. We're putting cameras in the Oval Office with the intention of it being clickbait.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you also have a man in office who his strong suit is doing stuff for the camera and has been for a long time. While I may not agree with the things he says, I also don't necessarily blame him for trying to work to his strengths.
I get that. But I think that we have allowed all of this cameras everywhere and we claim transparency and say, oh, we're putting this in these situations so that it's really clear. Everybody knows what it is. But again,
Who has time to go and watch all of that footage, so they don't.
Go back, yeah.
And
I
they
go
just
back
use
to
little
kind of the
tiny pieces to
laziness of it.
add
Yeah.
everything out of context. Yeah, 100%.
Let me take this one little piece of it and use that to twist the other 6 hours of coverage. And it just has become manipulation. We've talked about it before. I said it a minute ago. You can't think of one news source out there that you can trust unanimously. We don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore. And there may be some that are better than others, or there could be some that are more factual than others. But number one, bias is more rampant today than I feel like has ever been out there in the course of history, and more obvious today. This is my agenda and I'm pushing it no matter what. And you're just like, Why does everybody need to have an agenda? I mean, we can sit here and talk about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard or Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Have you guys either one of you met any of those people? Do you know any of them? So why do we need to pick sides? What is the purpose of picking sides and saying, I'm going to put my money on Johnny Depp? I'm going to put my money on Blake Lively because I liked that movie that they were in one time 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose of that? Y'all are going to laugh at me. I feel like it kind of started with the Kardashians, keeping up with the Kardashians. These people who have no reason to be out there for us to be obsessed with them. And then all of a sudden we're letting cameras in. And so now we can see all of their dirty laundry, airing all of their dirty laundry. And now we're rooting for them. And now we're going in and we're picking their side. Whether you like or don't like the Kardashians is not the point here. It really truly is. The more that you put out there, the more opportunities you have to get somebody else on your side, to get somebody to go buy your product, to get somebody to go watch your new movie. Like, I just don't understand how we, as a society, as the people who haven't met any of those people and have no stake in any of this, how we don't recognize that as manipulation.
That was going to be the word I used.
We're too tired to recognize it. I think a lot of people aren't paying enough attention to it to recognize that. They're paying just enough attention to it because they're losing in so many other places that they have this one easy opportunity to win.
What horrible people are we? What
Yeah.
sad people are we? If
Yeah.
this watching a celebrity court case on the internet is your win,
Sexual abuse.
yeah. Oh, goodness.
I mean,
I have a Threads account that I really enjoy. She is an attorney out of the state of New York. Her name is Mary Jane, but her handle is more with MJ. And she does all of these she's tweeting about all kinds of things. Oh my God, this is what happened at hockey practice tonight with my kids. Oh my God, I completely missed that this was a thing going on. This is ridiculous. But she's also, like I said, she's an attorney. So she's doing these breakdowns of, hey, you guys just saw that this letter hit the court about this case. Let's break down what that actually means. Okay, this is the Latin term. This is what it means. This is why it's relevant in this case. This is how it could go one way or the other. And I personally find them very fascinating. I don't have a dog in the race, but I do find it very educational saying, oh, this is why that matters. These are all of the connections that are being made in this court case for somebody who knows a lot more about this than I do, for somebody who has that stake.
did you know that's a whole thing? They call them law tubers.
No.
So I was watching a YouTube just recently, and it was talking about these law tubers, and I don't know about MJ. I like her too, so I'm not trying to disparage her in any way. But it started out, and these people have law degrees, but have not practiced law in many of the cases. But they're doing what she's doing, where they're just explaining to the general public what is going on about this. But it's a whole genre in YouTube called law tubers. I didn't know this.
I had no idea.
So go on with MJ because I like her and I do like the way that she explains things.
I mean, she's got a whole series that she's doing now. Whenever something new comes out in the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case, hey, this is what a sanction actually means. This is who's being sued. This is what that lawsuit actually means. These are the precedents that are kind of being taken into consideration. And this is where the judge could or couldn't go. These are the things that he might do. This is what it might look like. This is what it might turn into. Hey, what does civil extortion actually mean? Hey, this is how it plays into all of these things. I mean, there's just so much to it that I feel like the nuance is really broad. And the more that you start digging in, the more you go, oh.
Found it interesting that people on the comments would say, well, why are you supporting that side? And I'm not sure that she really has been. I think she's just been saying, look, this attorney filed this form and this is what this form means. And this is how that normally plays out. And so I don't know that she's really been supportive?
Well,
One
I,
side
I
or the
think
other?
because, so I want to cover two things here real quick. One, I want to go back to what you said a second ago, Gig, and what I was saying earlier. I don't think people have time. I think people have decided that they don't have time for nuance anymore. So they say, okay, this is what I have. Don't care about the nuance. I've made my decision and I'm sticking to it no
That's the
matter
answer.
what. See ya.
Yep.
Then going back, I think that there has been such a massive change in the dynamic of how things are reported to us that if you have a report that someone is winning at something, even if you are just saying, okay, their numbers are 53, their numbers are 47, you now have a bias towards whoever has 53. Because if you weren't biased for them, then you would say that the person with 47 is winning. Because there is such extreme bias on either side, you can't report that someone is winning unless you're on their side. And I think that's what you're seeing there with her, with people. Why are you supporting them? When she may, in fact, not be. She's just saying, this is what has happened. And that indicates that one side or the other has an advantage. So if you're reporting on that advantage at all, you're biased towards that team.
Right. And people come and they're like, no one cares. Why are you doing this? And people are like, but I care. I care. I find this fascinating. Thanks for doing this. And she puts a lot of time in it. But she wrote one, she said, somebody asked, why do you still support Blake Lively? And she said, because if I'm wrong, I haven't mocked anyone's appearance, ripped apart their marriage, attacked their parenting, discredited them or their mother, or criticized everything that they've ever done. But if you're wrong, you help destroy a woman for headlines and clicks. Taylor Swift spent a decade warning us what this looks like. And if Justin Baldoni proves his case, great. I'll be completely relieved because real justice doesn't scare me. Mob mentality does.
Yes. Yes.
And I did. That was exactly my reaction when I read it. I was like, yes, this is what it is. There's no reason for you to sit here and be an asshole in the meantime of getting to the point. The point that at the end of the day doesn't have any impact on you and or your life. Neither here nor there. But what is the purpose of just sitting here being cruel to people for clicks?
Yeah,
And
if you
merciful.
don't care about their reporting, why are you commenting on it? Why are
Go
you
away.
driving the
Keep
algorithm to
scrolling.
push their content? Yeah, just scroll on.
Yeah.
But that's another I mean, Cole, you talk about time. If you're taking the time that something that doesn't have anything to do with you,
You make a great point. I think it is an illusion that we don't have time.
Yes. I think it's an excuse.
I think we
I
waste
think
a
it's
lot of
certainly
time.
part of it. 100% agree. I know I do.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that the way that our brains work, every single one of us, just the brain as a whole, it would rather lie to you than admit that it doesn't know.
Yes.
This has been proven scientifically that your brain will make something up before it says, hey, I'm not really sure. And so I think that that's kind of part of it too. I would rather, there's in quotes, you guys, this is not Callie talking, but I would rather be against somebody than say, hey, I'm not really sure where I stand on this. Let me go do the research.
Because it's a coin flip. I have 50% chance of being right or wrong.
Yeah.
I'll take
I mean,
those
but
odds and leave it at that. And you know what? If I'm wrong, whatever. I'll just move on to the next one. And if I'm right, I'll say I was right about this for the rest of eternity.
and it's no skin if you're wrong.
Yeah. We become prematurely and falsely invested in things that don't mean anything to us directly. And, I think that her tweet that I just read a second ago does such a good job of kind of putting it into perspective. I am not anywhere near this Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively case, but I do happen to be a woman. And if I am a woman who ends up being sexually harassed at the workplace, what does that look like for me? How is that going to be
Not good.
represented? What?
Not good.
Yeah. And so that's part of why I'm so curious about this case. It's not because I want him to be strung up
No,
in,
but we are bad for the victims.
Yeah, I want to know what our society thinks is reasonable and is appropriate. And do I agree with those things? Where do I stand on this? How would that impact me if I were the one on the accusation side of that? What am I up against? Like, what is this supposed to look like? What is right? What is fair? What is reasonable? And I think that making that decision, deciding that you know what is true and accurate and real without any fact, I think is silly.
I think a lot of us have thrown reason out the window.
I don't want to be in that boat.
I don't either.
I don't want to be in that boat at all, but I think that that's part of the reason why we started and continue to do this podcast. I want to be wrong. I want to learn from you. I want to hear your perspective and see what else I've missed out on. What am I being nose blind to? All of these pieces of other perspectives. That's my favorite part of, we've talked about it before, of reading. I love reading books so that I can gather the perspective of somebody outside of my own, and of doing this podcast with you guys. Well, hey, I never thought about it like that. I wasn't even taking that into consideration. That's really intelligent to think about. Well, how did I miss that? And so I think that the moment that we start addressing things with more curiosity rather than judgment, it actually gives us an opportunity to learn. But we as a society, and I go back to it being lazy, we're not being curious. We're just deciding based on this one little piece of this one shred of the whole story that's enough for me. I've decided.
I just want to say, you said you want to be wrong. And I think Cola's going to agree with me on this. I don't want to be wrong, but I want to know if I am.
That's fair.
I want to be open minded enough. I want to have enough compassion and reserve for somebody to come to me and say, Mecca, you're off base on this. Here's why. And I want to have enough common sense and decency and caring to go, I'm going to listen to you, and I may not agree with you, but I'm not going to just be stubborn about
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
And I'm also not going to be vicious about it.
Yeah. And I think that's hard in modern discourse to not be vicious, but I think I said this in one of our earliest episodes.
It doesn't have to be. I don't think it has to be.
It's hard for me to not be vicious if someone is being vicious to me.
Okay, I'll go there.
I struggle with that. Like, if you're
Yeah,
being an
that's my
asshole
mama
with
bear
me,
coming
it's
out.
really hard for me to not be an asshole back.
I agree.
And I think that is just kind of commonplace in modern discourse. And I think a lot of people that I interact with have gotten to the point where they don't want to be that way anymore. So they just don't respond. If they say something and you disagree and you're being vicious, like, I'm either going to be an asshole or I'm just not going to interact with you if you're acting that way. But kind of going back, I want to be correct. You guys know this about me. I struggle with being wrong.
Yep.
Not a thing that I am good at, but I also don't want to continue to be wrong due to a lack of reasonability, out of stubbornness. I don't want to say, I said the sky is purple one time, so I'm going to stick to my guns even though right now it's blue.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be that way. And I know that I'm not always good at that, but that's not my desire. I would rather be wrong and correct myself with new information than think I'm right and continue to be wrong and look like an idiot.
Okay, you guys are right. I was wrong. It's not that I want to be wrong. It's that I want to be open to a different opportunity to be correct. You're correct. You said something a second ago, Cole, about interacting with viciousness. I heard some people the other day when Joe Biden had come out that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer that were cheering that on and that were celebrating that. And that broke my heart. Not because I am a Joe Biden
I don't care if it's a hidden
fangirl.
story.
Yeah. But
I don't
why
care.
would you wish ill of somebody else? Why would you
Yes.
be celebrating a cancer diagnosis. I
Yeah.
don't care who it's for.
No.
There are people out in the world that I despise. I don't wish them to have cancer. And that kind of goes back to that you were talking about a second ago, Cole. I don't want to be a part of that.
Here's what I was thinking when you were talking about the viciousness, though, Cole. And you are in a role where you talk to strangers throughout your job. And some of them are not really kind to you, and some of them seem a little crazy sometimes.
Disconnected from reality? Yeah, totally.
I've never heard you be rude. And I listen to you a lot. It is a source of pride with me that
That's my job.
I
I don't get to be
because
rude and keep my job.
but here's
I
the
don't
point.
think that, I think you're selling yourself short.
You can choose not to be vicious because you do it all of the time for your job. So if we
I
can
think
choose,
that's different though, because if the same interaction was happening in the line at McDonald's, I would not be as reserved as I am when I'm at my job. Don't like I'm holding myself to a different standard there than I probably would be in a one-on-one situation outside of that, because outside of that, I am representing myself, whereas at work, I am representing the company that I work for. And to me,
I
those are
get
different.
that. I get that. But what I'm saying is it's a choice that you make. So you can make that choice in other places. And you
I
may choose not
can.
to.
And I think the point that I'm trying to get across here is that I have an incentive to make that choice in one, whereas in another scenario outside of that, I don't have that same incentive.
Well, I think that's an interesting word because then are you saying that we do have an incentive to be jackasses? To
No,
wish
but I'm saying that
death
there is not
threats
an
and
incentive to not be.
The
This is
opportunity is
there's a meme that has gone around the internet for a while where like it doesn't cost you anything to be nice. And the number one follow-up response is it's also free to be an asshole.
I don't think that that's true. I don't think that that's true.
But I think it's perceived that way.
I agree with you 100%, but I don't think that it is free to be an asshole.
In
I think
general,
that
I would
it's
agree.
just a cost that you may not directly pay first.
yeah, it costs somebody for you to be an asshole.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to go back to high school economics. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Everything costs somebody something. Kindness costs somebody something. It may be a price that you're willing to pay. And that's me. I'm willing to pay that price. I want to be kind. I want to be nice because I think that the payoff is better than the cost, higher than the cost. But being an asshole to somebody still comes with a cost. You just may not be the one who immediately pays it.
I mean, and those people may just be willing to pay that cost. They may not perceive it as a cost. They may perceive it as a benefit. That doesn't make them right.
Right, which is my point. If I come at you, Cole, and start putting you down and saying all of these negative things about you and being an asshole to you so that I can feel better about myself, the cost is not on me. The cost is on you, who then plays that over and over in your head. Oh, she thinks I'm horrible. Oh, she thinks I'm this, that, or the other. She doesn't think that I'm enough. Am I really enough? I may not be enough.
Yeah, it
I
costs
may actually
someone.
be horrible. Somebody's paying that price. And when you're an asshole, you're just passing the buck.
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, but a lot of people are okay with that.
But okay, so let's talk about the accountability of that. And that's where I really feel like we're just lacking.
Yeah.
Because you were sitting there saying that and you were saying, if I go to you, Cole, and I say you, and I'm thinking, well, first off, your mama's going to come to you and say, cut it out. Go apologize to your brother and y'all make up. And so,
Not everybody has that.
and I get that. And I mean,
World needs more mamas.
Yeah.
say that again.
I said the world needs more mamas.
More mama bears. I mean, yes and no, but we've talked about Scott Galloway a lot here lately because we've just been fascinated with some of the things that he's saying. But he also came to a point where he said, I was an asshole. I knew I was an asshole. And I decided that is not who I wanted to live, because he has a fear of being old and being alone. And so,
Because he watched himself be a shit when his mom was dying.
yes.
And that, again, that comes with a cost. And eventually he paid it.
So are we not teaching accountability? Are we not requiring accountability?
Goes back to the whole participation trophy thing. No, I mean, we're not teaching accountability. If everybody has to win, then you don't have to try. You just are by default a winner. There's no effort that has to be put into that to be a winner. You just get to be a winner because we say you're a winner, which is insane, but it's what we've been teaching our kids for decades now. Again, it goes back to what is really, to me, kind of a core dispute between the two different sides of our political spectrum. We're not teaching accountability.
Okay, let's go to our political parties, because a big piece of this is that we have two extremes in politics. We have no accountability from either one of them, in my personal opinion. Because we're all just lashing out at the other one. And I mean, I find myself, as I'm, reading the news, that I just want to go, wait a minute. I want you to be responsible to the American people. And I don't really care what the hell that means to your platform. You owe the American people. They put you in there. That's what your job is. You need to be responsible to but we're not. I mean, you've got a handful of politicians that you can go and say, look, I think they care about me.
Okay, speaking of cancel culture, I am by no means, what is it called when I'm not saying that what they did was right?
Supportive,
No,
endorsing.
Complicit.
I don't know. So I am by no means saying that he was a good person or he did anything right. I think that he did lots of really, really bad things. But speaking of people who have been canceled, Bill Cosby used to have a thing that he said, he had a joke about, I put you into this world and I can take you out of it. And I feel like we need to be applying that to politicians, especially, I put you into this office, I can take you out of it. It is your responsibility. You are accountable to us, all of your constituents. And if you don't want to live up to those standards, we're going to take you out.
We have to follow through on that, though.
I agree.
And we're
Totally. And we're not. Condoning is the word I was looking for. I think that the answers to all of your questions that you asked about accountability, no, we are not teaching it. No, we are not holding people to that. And I think in a lot of ways, I think that I'm going to go back to lazy here. I think that that's the lazy way out. That's too much work. I don't want to have to go and take them out of office, because then we have to find a replacement, and it's just easier. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. I don't want to have to call every day. I don't want to have to send letters. I don't want to deal with this. I just want them to be doing it the way that I want them to be doing it. I'm not willing to talk to them about what I think is right or wrong. I'm not willing to stand up and run for office. I go back to us being lazy. All of this falls on us. We put those people into office. We voted for this, that, and the other. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, get up. Do something about it. Stop being lazy. We've gotten so lax on our morality and our ethics, and this is the cost. You're right. You can be an asshole for free. This is the cost. It drives me crazy, y'all. I want to, and I am included in this. I want to take us all by the shoulders and shake us and say, wake up, wake up. Come on, be realistic. What?
Pay attention.
Pay attention. I mean, and Cole, I'm going to be so annoyed by saying this, but whatever. I can't even remember what episode it was in. We were talking about doing things right and right versus wrong. And you said, if there is an opportunity for you guys to do things right, that also means that there's an opportunity for me to do things wrong and me to take advantage of you doing things right. And again, I think this is the cost. This is the cost that is paid. And that sucks. I'm tired of our culture being exploited for not just one person's gain or one group's gain. I'm tired of our society being exploited for the gain of anybody beyond the success.
Good point. So I want to talk about one that I mentioned early in this podcast, and I want to get y'all's take on this. Ed Martin was the interim U.S. District Attorney, I think, for D.C. Did I get that all right? Who said, and he's no longer in that job, not because he got fired, but because somebody else was appointed to be the interim. But he's now
That'd be him
in
getting
charge.
fired, though?
No, he didn't get fired. They moved him to another job where he's in charge of the weaponization group, which is a scary thing verbally to even say. But this was his deal of, it doesn't matter if we have criminal.
If we can charge you with a crime or not, we are going to weaponize shame against you to serve its purpose,
Yes.
to take its
And
toll.
so this has been said against Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen, who have both said negative things about the Trump administration.
Special counsel Jack Smith is in there. Biden is in there. The Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Letitia James, excuse me. I mean, if you said anything negative towards the Trump organization, or if you didn't get on board with their agenda, they're coming for you.
So the intent of that group, the weaponization group, was to prevent weaponization. And we've turned that around now and said, oh no, we're going to use it. We're going to say, we're just going to defame you in the process of this.
I want to touch on a couple of things here. One, I think a lot of people on the political right would say that they're justified in doing so because they perceive the DOJ as having been weaponized against Trump in this past election. You can agree or disagree with that.
Okay.
But I think that is the way it is perceived by a lot of people.
Okay.
I also think we're talking about a really, really slippery slope here because there are some things where I think it's probably okay to weaponize shame. Like if you are a sexual predator, I think you should be publicly shamed for that because that is a preventative tool for other people who would be sexual predators.
This makes me think of isn't it in Thailand, if you are caught stealing, they cut your hand off?
I don't know that that's a thing anymore, but that was historically accurate, culturally
but I'm
speaking,
gonna
for
say
a lot
this.
of the world.
If you are a sexual predator, then there are laws in place and you have been convicted of something. There are laws in place that say, we are going to post this information for the good of the community. So that's different to me.
Sure. But okay, so what about all of the guys that go unconvicted, that don't get arrested, that don't get charged, but they get caught by YouTubers who are posing as people, as targets, and then they shame them publicly on the internet? Is that good or bad?
I think that should be your first step for legal recourse. But I don't think that can be what we use against people. Because what if they're wrong? And I'm going to be the
I
first one
get
to say, our court system is not without
Flaws.
issue.
Yeah, definitely not infallible.
No, it isn't. I mean, we've talked about this on this podcast alone, that a man who served time for 20 something years only to find out that somebody confessed to the crime, but he wasn't taken out of prison. I mean, so I think the thing is that we have to use our legal system. And when you talk about somebody who's saying, we can't find anything to charge you with, but we're going to shame you anyway. You've just discounted that legal system and you've harmed it.
I don't disagree. I'm not
you've
trying to
taken out.
advocate for what he said at all. I'm just trying to,
Show the different perspective.
highlight a different perspective here, because I think there are some cases where weaponizing shame is a reasonable and useful tool. I also think it's a tool that is extremely powerful in our society and one that would be very easy to abuse.
I go back to the red letter for adultery, that it's different to me if you want to shame both parties to that. But if you're only going to shame one party, and if you have proof of that, and that proof has, it's not questionable proof, there's a difference there. And and in our society with our social media, you can't tell me that a YouTube is proof positive of anything.
Sure. But again, that goes back to the point that Callie was making earlier that we've been talking about is that we as a society are not taking time to consider that nuance. And I think that's part of the problem.
Well, and I think that I'm so tired of the pendulum. And that's not just the pendulum in politics, swinging far right and far left. I'm just so tired of the extremes. I don't care who you voted for. There's a middle ground that we can find. But why do we need to push so hard to win? Not to do anything else, but to win because like on the fringe of those extremes.
Because that's what we're
Because
taught to do.
yeah, I think it is. And that's where I struggle with all of this. The double standard of all of that, going back to cancel culture, who gets canceled and who gets a second chance? Because you
Sense.
guys, if nobody ever gets a second chance, we're fucked. Every single one of us. Every time.
Here's the
You be
thing.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people who have not been as blessed in their lives as Blake Lively or Justin
Yep.
Baldoni or Bill Cosby or Tom Cruise or any of these celebrities that are significantly more well off living situation wise than the average American. They don't have an opportunity to be wrong. Because listen, your life is so much better than mine. You better not screw up. And if you do screw up, you're unforgivable.
Until you bring money into it. I can pay for those costs. I can pay for all of that. I mean, I think Elon Musk is a great example. You could sit here and we've talked about Bill Gates before. My intentions are supposed to be good. They look good on paper at first glance, but the ripple effect of what is happening outside of that original intention, I go back to the impact versus the intention. Those are not always the same. My intention is good. The impact may not be nearly as good.
In the wise words of Tech Nine, ain't no right or wrong, just killer bees out for your honeycomb. But you find out what you mind out, you can be free if your money long. Shout out Tech, please don't sue me.
But that's my point. I go back to, we talked about this in the happiness episode. We talked about this in the wealthy and unhappy episode. Like, what is the goal? What is the actual long-term goal? And I think that we have gone away from ethics and morality being the goal. We have
I agree with you.
prioritized money over everything else. Even though, again, science, history, research says money can't buy happiness,
Do you
it
think
can buy innocence.
this is kind of a weird thought here. Do you think that has been prioritized? Do you think that it has been exacerbated by some of the things that we've talked about in the past, by the increasing wage gap? Because money and influence, there's a level of scarcity there that it is now seen morality is free. Morality doesn't gain you anything. If anything, it works against you in many cases. It works to your disadvantage for you to behave ethically or morally. So
Well, that's
we
a
have,
horrible statement.
is it
Nice
wrong?
Not
guys
arguing,
finish
but
last.
Yeah. So is this drive for rightness, for attention, is that based in people's socioeconomic status? Is this where we're prioritizing money? Is that because for so many people money is so scarce?
I would say yes. And I go back to the World Happiness Report reading about Israel. Their wealth disparity is great, just like ours is. They have, again, proportionally speaking, significantly more people who live below the poverty line than we do. but their score on the happiness scale is much higher than ours.
Because of their community.
Why? Yeah. And I just don't understand.
Well, I think you can reason that out because yes, even though they have such a high portion living under the poverty line, that is secondary to their existence, and they live geographically in a place that is surrounded by people who historically have wanted to kill them. So they have a greater need for community than they do for economic resources. That's a really interesting thought.
I go back to, I think that we in the United States have prioritized money being the definition of success, hustle culture being the definition of success, that we have forgotten about, again, all of the costs that are associated with what it takes to get there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are starting to find out that that mentality, yeah, okay, so you got the money, now what? It's empty when you get there. And I don't think that's true for everyone. I think it's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, but take it down to the next kind of rung of people, the next class of people, if you will, in the middle class and things like that. That luxury of standing up for right, of what is right, of speaking out against somebody who has wronged you, that costs so much more than you can afford. Blake Lively is much more well off than I have ever been or will ever be. And if she can't do it, what hope is there for me if I'm in that same situation? If she doesn't have the money to go out and say, hey, I was wronged, let's figure out a way to stop this and make this right, what hope is there for me? If she doesn't have the money to go out and say, hey, this is wrong, let's make it right, and the response is anything other than, yeah, let's go make it right, which it has absolutely historically not been. It has been, she's horrible, she's so terrible, here's all of these terrible things about her. Literally what she's being, or what they're accusing these people of, is a smear campaign to take her down. If she doesn't have the money to be able to fight that, we're screwed. I'm screwed. And that's terrifying.
Yeah, that it's interesting that you use the term smear campaign. I read a book probably about a year ago called The Smear that kind of talks about this. And it's, I think, the one of the most interesting parts. This book was talking primarily about politics, but towards the end it kind of started alluding to this is bleeding over into the internet and into real life everyday situations on a certain level, but it's kind of trickled down from politics. But there is a whole industry, $1 billion industry just in DC, that the entire point of some of these firms, they're almost like secret society PR firms, and the whole point is to publicize bad things about your opponents and to come out and sometimes it is the way things are said, sometimes it is just sound bites, it's taking things out of context, and how there are whole firms, I mean literally a multi-billion-dollar industry, that its sole purpose is to basically dig up dirt or skew a narrative using little pieces of information that they're able to find just to make someone else look bad, to give you a better chance at looking positive in public opinion. And
Weaponizing the
yeah,
narrative against you.
yeah, absolutely. And it's been picked up and run with, I feel like, in mass by a lot of these large media conglomerates that have an inherent bias and have an agenda, and they're saying, okay, we can take this one little piece and make it look really, really bad. And I think both sides are doing it all of the time, and I think it's disgusting. I mean, the ones that I can think of, because of a lot of the content that I listen to, are going to be media on the left taking these sound bites against Trump or against people who are perceived as being figureheads on the right. Like when, what was it, MSNBC had the video footage of Joe Rogan that they had put a filter on to make him look yellow after the whole ivermectin debacle
I
during
didn't see
COVID,
that.
or their very fine people quote from Trump that makes it look like he's talking about the KKK and white supremacists. When if you go and read the entire thing, he explicitly says, I'm not talking about these people, but I know for a fact, and I don't watch Fox News because they're just as bad about it, but I don't listen to a whole lot of people who are talking from that side that are giving me the examples, but I know they exist. I know they are out there. I know that the right is doing the exact same thing. I just don't have any anecdotal examples of it. And so, like, I'm trying to not be biased in saying this, but I just have examples of people that are perceived as being from the right because oftentimes that's who I'm listening to. And I just think it's absolutely insane.
It's absolutely insane. It's terrifyingly sad, but that all boils down to, for me, number one, the potential for anybody to be the casualty is incredibly high. But more than that, the truth means nothing.
Well,
The truth becomes the casualty in all of this because somebody is always saying the opposite of what the truth is, just to counteract it, just to counterbalance it, just to put something else out there to skew it the other way.
I think
And
that's part of that
it's
cost that you talked about, Cal, is
yeah.
that it may not be a direct cost to me, but it's a cost in the long run. If we don't have any truth, because there never can be truth.
I think what's even worse is the my truth.
What do you mean?
I think that there is a large percentage of people that say, this is what's true to me. And because they're calling it my truth, their truth, what's true to them, that completely obliterates the necessity on their part to provide any evidence, to have anything that says this actually is what's true. They're just saying, because I believe it, it is true to me, regardless of what you say. And that completely removes any opportunity for discourse to say, hey, maybe you're thinking about this wrong, because if it's my truth, there's nothing you can do to sway me. It's true to me because I say it is, which is just insanity.
Yeah.
It's stupidity.
Yeah.
It's refusal to acknowledge reality. And I think people on both sides are doing it constantly, and it just boggles my mind.
I mean, Cole, you've talked about, and I think you're absolutely right. Trump's good space is to be kind of like he is, but
Be a showman.
to be a showman. Thank you. But, it's that constant thing, the one where he comes up and says that Ukraine started the war, and there's no validity to that. Or, he just went against the South African president, and he came with his stuff that apparently has been fact checked and doesn't stand up to everything that he's saying. And so my problem is we have a president who is using this and doing really well. I mean, and I have a problem with that as an American citizen, as a mom. I have a problem that somebody that is in that level of authority and should be an office of respect, I have a problem with that. If that's okay at that level, then all of the things that you and I are talking about here, they almost don't even mean anything because it's just a filtered down effect. It's not going to mean anything. And so how do we get that back? How do we get accountability? How do we get decency?
Again, I think that starts with us independently first. Holding each other accountable first, holding each other to an exceptionally reasonable and high bar that says, hey, that's acceptable. This isn't.
We have to find a way to incentivize that behavior to our little reptilian lizard brains.
Now we're gamifying
I think is really hard.
accountability.
Well, I mean, you say that, but everything that is incentivized is gamified, I guess. I mean, if you want to talk about going all the way back to the first humans, you could say, oh, berry picking was gamified because there was an incentive to pick berries. Yeah, you won. You get to eat today and not die.
Right.
Sharpening sticks was incentivized because now if a bear or a lion comes to get you, you can at least try and poke them before they poke you. And so I don't know that it's really fair to say that it's being gamified. I get what you're saying, but I think that our society has just been built around economic status so much that it's really tough to incentivize good behavior, because it's the old adage, no publicity is bad publicity. There is no bad publicity.
No bad PR.
Yeah, and man, I think that's a really tough thing to kind of try and tackle.
I think we need to normalize nuance. Everything
Yeah.
isn't black and white. We need to sit here and have conversations with the people that are around us saying, hey, I get that that's your hot take, but where does that stem from? What is the actual truth of that? What's the point? And again, holding people accountable. I think that that matters. I think that the ripple of effect of that matters and means something. I think that we need to emphasize accountability over punishment. Hey, you did this and it was wrong. Let's figure out how to make amends and do better in the future. Not how to hide it so that you don't get caught next time, but to truly do better. And I think that the other part of it is, especially in today's day and age, is to separate platform from person. Just because Callie said this on Twitter does not make this Callie's whole personality. Just because Callie said this out online doesn't mean that A, that viewpoint is correct, B, that it can't be changed, and C, that that is her in totality. We need to recognize how to separate those pieces of each of us.
What did you say the other day? I'm not just the bitch that wants the dishwasher loaded right.
Yeah. I didn't say that. Mom said she's not just the bitch who wants the dishwasher loaded that way.
Yeah. And I think it's important, societally speaking, for people to recognize that. I think it's going to be really hard to incentivize that kind of behavior, though.
Yeah.
Because some of that has to be personal preference.
Yeah. Belief systems.
Belief system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
hate to use the word accountability again, but it comes down to,
I think Cole did a good job here a second ago talking about, hey, tends to be the media that I'm served. I think that we need to take into account the algorithm and be respectful of that within our own brains. Outrage equals engagement and engagement equals profit. That is how social media works. That's why it is so profitable.
Yeah, we
and
are
we
the
need
product.
our time, our eyeballs, our emotions are the price. And so I think that we need to recognize that more and understand this is made to just piss me off. What is reality here? Dig in, be reasonable, pay attention. And you can't get it from one source. You just can't.
And even if you get it from a source that you think is reliable, you have to understand that everyone has bias. Everything you hear online should be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
Period.
no one is
I
infallible.
don't care where it came from. Even if it's a source that has been right every other time you've talked to them, you should still take what they say with a grain of salt, period.
Yeah.
Content creators and mainstream media are not the gospel.
No. That includes us.
Yes, 100%. Except Mom. Mom's always right.
True.
Yeah, we've already proven that's not right.
But
that's why you have children, so they can tell you how wrong you are.
Happy to help. Goodness. Be kind. Reclaim empathy is a really powerful tool. Justice can be done, but we have to let it be and not just make it happen.
Don't jump to conclusions just because you read it online. Okay.
And here's the thing. You can have some conclusions, and sometimes those conclusions should be, okay, I don't know enough about this to make a decision on it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, and also, yes, to that, but also I think that you need to remain open-minded enough to hear another perspective and to say, hey, I was wrong.
Well, and I'm going to say this. I don't think we need to have instant decisions. I mean, if I'm looking at this deal with Lively and Baldoni, I'm going to wait until there's more proof here that it's been laid out I mean, I want it to be laid out in a court of law, not played out in the media. I want there to be standards and rules that we lay this out and decide here is where the truth is. And again, I know that our legal system is not infallible. I get that. But it's what we have, and it's the best thing that we have right now. And so I cannot go and say, okay, well, I mean, I read it online, so I know that Taylor Swift and Blake Lively aren't friends anymore. I'm going to wait.
Withhold
I'm going
judgment.
to wait. Maybe they are. Maybe they're just doing what their lawyers told them to do, to be quiet, which is the best thing that you can do here.
To not fan the
And
flames.
if it's the best thing that they can do, it sure as hell may be the best thing that you can do when you don't have any skin in the game.
Ain't that the truth? That's a wise mama comment.
Write that one down.
Yeah.
I need a couple. Okay, y'all got a weird thought for me?
I think Callie has a couple. So how do we want to go through this gig? Because you gave us some questions that I thought were really interesting, and I don't know if I want to pick just one. I'd love to go through them and get our takes on all 4 of them.
Let's do it.
So the first one that you wrote here, it says, just for kind of a premise for our listeners, Callie wrote 4 questions in regard to the topics that we've been discussing today. That I think are really, really interesting. So I'll go through them one at a time, and we'll just see what your answers are, your gut reaction is to each one of these right now. So the first one is public apology even possible anymore, or is silence the safest move now?
So, I mean, I think that that's so fascinating given Mom's comments just right now about Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. It doesn't matter what you do and what you say out loud right now. Everything is going to be wrong to somebody. You cannot please everyone. We have decided that opinion is more impactful than fact. And so it doesn't matter. Even if every headline that we have read about Taylor Swift and Blake Lively not being friends anymore and her being furious with Blake Lively about this and her getting involved, it doesn't matter what she comes out and says. She's screwing the pooch.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I'm
feel
going to
like
take a different tact at this because, and here's where I went with it. I think public apology can be beneficial. And here's where my brain went to that. I grew up with a dad who never said he was sorry. You might get in trouble and he might spank you or discipline you. And then if it turned out that he was wrong, nothing was said. I mean, he did not apologize.
Move on.
But I think I grew up as a parent thinking, first off, your kids know if you've screwed up. I mean, for the most part. And so I think it's more beneficial on my part as a parent to say, I was wrong on this, whether that's I lost my temper or I didn't think that friend was good for you or whatever it is. There was benefit to me coming to you as a parent and saying, I did this wrong and I'm sorry and I will try to be better. And if that's what public apology is, then I think that can be good. But in what you're talking about, Callie, that sometimes the silence is really the golden part, that maybe it depends on the arena that it's in. I mean, wouldn't you like to have some of our congressional people come forward and say, I made a mistake on that. I'm sorry. And I will
Yeah, and
try to
then
do better and represent you better.
in that arena, I think it's more common than anything, even if you're wrong, to just double down at this point. I mean, I think it's
it is,
much
but
more common to just double down, because the people that are with you are already with you, and the people that are against you are already against you. So doubling down, all it's going to do is fire up the people that are on your side. And I think that's a massive disadvantage to our society. I think it's a great boon to those individuals who are utilizing that strategy. But I want to talk about this from my perspective. You mentioned this on the podcast, but maybe it was on the podcast, maybe it was just in conversation. When I was a little kid, the worst punishment I could get was you and Dad being disappointed in me, period. I mean, there was absolutely nothing worse. And so if I messed up, it was anything I could do to hide that I had messed up. Like trying to forge your signature in second grade and spelling your name wrong and crossing it out and trying again. And so this is something that I did not really learn, but I have started to embrace, particularly in the industry that I'm in right now. When I mess up, when I notice I messed up, I immediately say, I just messed up really bad. And I start telling the people that it affects and working on getting it fixed instead of trying to hide it. And the amount of
But it's hard, isn't
trust.
it?
No, it's the easiest thing in the world, because the
I
amount
think
of
sometimes it's
trust
hard.
and appreciation that has developed with me and the people that I work with, it is so easy for me to say, hey, I was wrong about this. Let me fix this. I mean, there are times where I will be talking to someone, we'll be doing something, and I will do the wrong thing and not realize that I did the wrong thing. And I will immediately go to my boss, said, hey, I have to call this person back. I messed this thing up. This is what I'm doing to fix it. La da da da. And it's never a blow up. How could you do this? Why? What's wrong with you? It's okay, great. Thanks for catching that. Let me know how it turns out. Then I'll call back the person that I messed up on. And never one time. I have talked to some people who would lambast you for talking too slowly on the phone. But when you call them and you tell them, hey, I'm really sorry, I messed up, let's fix this, it's never anything but, hey, thank you for recognizing that. And now they want to work with me because they know that if I mess something up, I'm going to recognize it and go and fix it.
Because you have just established trust.
Yes.
With your
Accountability.
coworkers, with your boss, with your clients. Cole is going to do the right things even when it's hard.
Even when it makes him look like a dumbass.
Even when it makes him look like a dumbass, I trust that he's going to do the right thing. And that matters. Good for you. I think that in that specific sentence, that question, I think that the two kind of key words for me are both public and safest. A public apology is not always necessary. An apology is owed to the person that it impacts. Person or persons. Maybe that is the public. If you're going to sit here and talk about somebody in Congress who screwed up or somebody in government who screwed up, that impact, that ripple effect probably impacted a lot more than just one person. So maybe a public apology does make the most sense. The other part of it is the safest part. I don't think safest is the most important word. Your safety is certainly important, but is it the most necessary move? I am not going to be able to move on. They are not going to be able to move on without this. And safest in this particular capacity feels very selfish. Is it the safest for me? Is it the easiest thing for me? Is this what's going to make me move on from this fastest? It's not all about me.
Yeah, I think for me, this really kind of stems from, there are all kinds of different cartoons and books and stories and tales and fables about lies getting out of hand, about covering up your mistakes getting out of hand, and how it just snowballs into this bigger and bigger and bigger effect. One of the things that I have found with apologizing and immediately correcting your mistakes is that prevents the biggest mistakes.
Yeah. I said it on our TV episode. There would be no good TV if everybody told the truth. Because it does. It snowballs into the next big thing, and covering their lies and covering their asses. Just tell the truth. It's so much easier. And yes, more boring and more mundane, but a roller coaster is not necessary to live your life. Fun on occasion, not necessary for every day.
Okay. Second question.
The next one. And this one I think we've done a great job answering this one already a little bit, but if we're all watching these fights like it's reality TV, are we complicit? And I would say
Yes.
absolutely.
From the
And I
clickbait
think-
alone.
What?
Well, I said from the clickbait alone, but I said clickbait's just one piece of it. Having
Stop
the
clicking on it.
conversation.
If you stop clicking on it, they'll stop writing it.
I mean, yeah.
That's hard,
that's part
though.
of it.
Because you see something, you're just like, there's no way. And then you open it up and it turns out you were right. There's no way. And it's just some dumb article with a terrible headline full of ads.
Yeah.
But we can be complicit in a lot of ways. Passing that on, saying it again.
I was going to say, the complicit part that really gets me is when you start proliferating it. Hey, I read this shitty article with a bad clickbait headline. Now I believed it, and now I'm going to go tell 3 more people about it.
Yeah. Or if your actions complicate the matter. So if you come in and you go, well, I think you should die for this, you've just made that much more complex.
Question number 3 for our weird thought today. I'm very interested to hear y'all's answers. Would anyone survive a full forensic review of their group texts or internet search history?
I would
Absolutely not.
survive. You would just think I was a complete moron. I Google some weird shit just because I'm curious. I wonder what the answer to that is. I don't know. Let me go look.
I think survive might be okay. I was taking that different, but I understand what you're saying. Yes, you would survive. Yeah.
Would you
But
survive in the court of public opinion? I think is the way to phrase it.
yeah, no, I don't think anybody would, because I think we all say
Dumb
stupid
stuff.
things. Yeah, dumb stuff and mean things. Dependent. I mean, just dependent. So my answer to that one is no. No
Yeah,
one would
definitely
survive.
not. I have a group chat with dudes in it. There's no way. We've all determined that, hey, we're not running for office. We're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the last one here, I need a little bit of elaboration on, Gig. But the last piece of our weird thought isn't really one of these questions that we've asked, but it just is written here, giving up privacy at the cost of convenience.
Yes. Yes. So this was spurred by, I'm reading a book called The Four by Scott Galloway, talking about Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon, how they came to be, what has been productive, where they fell short, why they're trusted, all of these things. And I'm in the middle of it right now. And so I haven't concluded by any stretch my conscious thought about it. But Scott Galloway is talking in one part about Google and our search engines and about Alexa and all of these things. Cancel. And she's over here listening. We have, instead of setting our own timer, we let her listen to everything that we say. Instead of going to check 4 different stores to figure out which place offers the best deal or the best option for whatever thing that we're buying, we go to Google and we start looking. And all of that data is being A, mined, and B, turned around and essentially used against us in some really positive, beneficial ways. That's the convenience side of it. But
I was so
we have
mad.
given up privacy at the cost of convenience.
I went to, I can't even remember which one. That sounds bad. I do remember. I was not very happy with a pizza place the other day. So I wanted to talk to their customer service people. So I went online and the only availability was a chat box. And so in that chat, you had to put in your name and your email address and I don't know, something else. And I was a little bit ticked off about it because I thought, you don't even know what I'm calling you about and you want all of my information. And so then the person got on to chat about it and they said, oh, well, I need you to verify your name and address and your email address. And I said, you already have it. You wouldn't even be talking to me if you didn't have that because that was a requirement. And I was really annoyed by it because I just don't like having to give you all of my information before you even know what I want to talk to you about. It annoys me.
Yeah, this is probably a whole other podcast episode, maybe even 2, talking about metadata.
Yeah.
But that is really what's driving a lot of things in our society right now. But it's one that is kind of, you see all these waves on the surface that are crashing down, but you don't see the wave machine under it that's making them. And metadata, your personal information, is a huge part of that machine that is making those big waves.
That you are handing over on a silver platter.
And in many
Easily.
cases, yes. People are getting more questioning of it, which is great.
Yes.
But it is a slow process because not a lot of people understand how it works or what the repercussions of a lot of their actions are.
Yes. I told Mom earlier this week, I got my first iPhone when iPhone 3 came out, and I'm considering giving it up, going back to a dumb phone that just makes calls.
I just don't know that I could do that, Callie. And I know the repercussions of that, but there's so many things that I like having at my fingertips. It would change my entire world not to have a smartphone.
I know. And I haven't made the decision yet. The more that I read about all of this, the more I believe that this is a smart move. Do I think that it will be painful? Yes, I do. Do I think that it will change my everyday life and my daily tasks? Absolutely. I am also not to the point right now where I'm trying to go live off the grid in the middle of somewhere with
Oh,
nobody
that sounds
knowing
kind
where
of
I
rad.
am. Yes, but like I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to give up all social media and I'm never going to write another email again. Maybe I don't need it at my fingertips. Maybe it needs to stay on my iPad where I don't have it with me all of the time.
So I guess, is that it? Just like the amount of exposure?
Yes. But I think that for me, nobody else, but for me, I think the amount of the exposure is the starting point.
Yeah. See, it's really interesting. I can go through days without using any of that stuff on my phone. And then there will be a day where it's just like, oh, TikTok just sucked 4 hours out of my life today. And so for me, it's the notifications. It's just a constant bombardment. I have so many of the apps on my phone have notifications turned off, and still I can lock it, open it 30 seconds later, and I have a full page of notifications
Where's that coming from?
everywhere,
So here's my
everywhere
question,
all at
Cal.
once.
Is it too late
I
to
hope
shut
not.
down?
I mean, yeah, I think that it is too late, but I think that if we don't start somewhere, what hope is there?
Kind of like global warming.
Okay, well,
Again,
now
I
I
think we have
really
to
need.
figure out a way to incentivize the positive use of these tools. Whereas so far there has been incentive for both positive and negative use. I think we have to de-incentivize negative use of these tools,
Yes.
which is a great lead up to our good news story for today, which
Yes.
I thought was really, really interesting. So in Europe, there is a following called the Offline Club, and they have started installing these like rooms in public spaces like train stations and airports, and basically it's an offline zone. So it's a room that you go into that you just don't use your phone or the internet. Like, you interact with the other people who are there. You play a game of chess, or you have a conversation, or you sit and you read, or you write. And it's really, really interesting. But some of the statistics in this article I thought were actually rather encouraging, because all across Europe right now, young adults are joining offline clubs. They're joining
That's
clubs
so
of people
cool.
so that they can go and interact with them in person and not do it online, because that experience is so drastically different. And so
And has
some of the
such
stats,
value.
yeah, one of the lines is, not everyone pines for the days without cell phones, but what about social media? Would you erase social media from the history books if you could? And apparently 46% of the teenage respondents to this survey said yes, that they would eliminate social media from history. They also found that 68% said that they felt worse when they spend too much on their socials.
Sure.
And so I just thought it was really, really interesting that you now have a movement that is developing in Europe to move away from all that. And I think that's fantastic.
I think that's fantastic. But y'all, that's game night or going to, the restaurant with your friend and putting your phones away.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
Mom, people don't do that as much anymore.
You
You do
have to
it's
that.
start
true.
somewhere.
No, I don't do that. I try.
You do it more than a lot of people.
But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is having an offline zone should be part of your life, not that we have to create this in the train terminal.
And having accountability should be the standard, but
Whatever.
You walked right into that one. Set me up.
Goodness.
So, if
Well,
you're listening to us, this is not us saying that you should eliminate electronics or the internet from your life, especially not the part of your week where you listen to us. But set some time aside, talk to someone face to face. Spend some time with your family not watching TV or playing video games.
Set some boundaries and allow them to work for you,
Yeah.
not against you.
Yeah. You use the tools, don't be used as a tool. Because nobody
Yes.
wants to be a tool.
Because nobody wants to be a tool. Amen. I love you guys.
love you too.
I love you too.